On behalf of the Portfolio Committee of Infrastructure, Development and Property Management, we hereby declare Duduza Multipurpose Center as the precinct of the legislature for the 15th of May 2023. This is in terms of Rule 56, subsection 1 and 2 of the standing rules of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. The standing rule of the legislature will apply and govern all the engagements of the day. This simply means one thing, that everything that you see happening in Parliament, the respect that takes place in Parliament is exactly what is going to happen today. I saw the Speaker of the Legislature is also here. I know she's a daughter of this area of Duduza, very jealous of Duduza, very proud of Duduza. Ukhona, and in Ampoka ngamanamba. I'm sure Pumili yolanda abantu bazogcwalisa le hall leli. Akafuni next speaker ngeDuduza. Every opportunity she gets, just remind her, uthi mina ngiphume eDuduza. So abantu baseDuduza fonela ukhazini nabobhuti nabomkhulu abakhona bazogcwalisa ihall. Ningamphoxi untombi. Please man, inhliziyo yakhe ebhlungu athi ha niseDuduza abantu bangekho ngikhona, it's not possible. So siyacala ke, I'm sure our teams are ready. We wanted them to settle as well. If you have a what is this thing, agenda, you will see there's opening and welcome, and then we'll receive the most important presentations from two departments. One is from the legal, one is from the National Public Works Office. Immediately after, we'll hand over to you, community Asegurulin, to engage with us on what has been presented to you. Once we're done, we'll then close the meeting. But so you know, all your inputs have been recorded. I'm sure if you see on your left there by the wall, kunabantu abahleli nemishini eminingi nje lapho. Kunonye ubhuti ugqoke ijacket eligreen le-Adidas. Uyandirekhoda ne? Everything that we say in this house, we record. And the reason everything is recorded is that when we go back and consolidate, singakhulumi amanga. Ngoba zobe nisengekho angithi nina. So singathi no man, hey member mkhithi, you remember bathi what omunye athi hayi abashongo lo basho kanje. Where we don't agree on what was discussed, we'll go to the recordings and listen so that we are able to move. We're not going to tell you what we as the portfolio committee we think in terms of the reason we're here, because we don't want to influence any of you. We want you to stand up and say exactly what you think must be said here in this meeting. And as a word of advice, I will suggest that if you have a pen and a paper, you start writing down your comments in a bullet form. So you say 1, bones. You know, mabonu bones yazo zokhuluma ngani. Uthi 2, ntombi. Kanjalo, kanjalo, kanjalo. So that when you have a chance to speak, you are not all over. You are focused and you know exactly what to say. And in that way, you make more sense and your contribution is more appreciated. If you know that you are good, your memory is good, you don't have to write anything down. You just know what mesenkhuluma mina, this is what I'm going to say. So, before we invite the first presenter, let me take this opportunity. It will be on your left because to me it's on my right. But to you it's on your left. On my right, far right, we have Honorable Member Tong. Member Tong, thank you. Now ukhona eTV, ungasabi umbheke lapha eTV, ukhona uyaphuma eTV. Yambo? Aphuma eTV. Nani nophuma eTV namhlanje? Umcela umuntu ohleli phambi kwakho uthi mase ngikhuluma ngoba ngizobe ngiphuma eTV ngithatha isithombe lapha eTV usithathe lapha eTV. Ngibasendele ekhaya ngithi yabo you are missing out ngaze ngaphuma nami eTV. Mawucela ufake ku Facebook usende Yabo basendele bonke nale makhaya basendele uthi hey umnandi eGoli sesaphuma eTV. And then next to Honorable Member Tong is Honorable Member Njokwe. Yabo phuma eTV nani igama lakhe likhona. Yonke into ikhona lapha. Next to her it's Honorable Masilela. I'm keeping in TV. Oh, now, yeah. Now I'm a TV. And then next to me on my left, which is your right, it's Honorable Mukheti. Number Pume TV. Umnandi like to do so. Next to Member Mukheti is Member Magagula. Now, sisterela like us. Muntu aseguruleni na. Uzekhaya. And then next to her, it's Member Mngube. Number one. And then we also have Mr. Mzalose. Bingelela abantu bakubone. Uye umuntu enikhuluma naye organize transport yonke linyaka nyaka. Yeah. And then next to Mr. Mzalose, nang Ms. Chabalala. Puma bakbone, yeah. TV funu pume TV, yeah. Funu pume TV. Maureen was funu pume TV, yeah. Yeah. Nambon? Yes. Yeah, nang Maureen. Maureen. And then we've got our researcher, Ms. Siroba. Oza backboard. Yeah, now. Okupukinil, Mpirim, where are you? There she runs, our athlete, number. Agapume TV, Mkipeni Pele TV. Ima backboard, yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, now, number. Hari bafethu ushadile ne hari bafethu hari. And then there's a gentleman who's always talking to you via media statements, pictures. Uputhebe. Oh nangu mntwana ka Dr. Khumalo le. Yeah. Mntwana ka Dr. Khumalo Thebe Khumalo. Mkhipheni eTV phela uThebe. Thebe sifuna ukubona nawe eTV. Yes. Akashatanga. Ngiyadlala. Sesiyaqala ke. We are starting to process the expropriation bill. We are going to receive a presentation on the legalities of the expropriation bill. Wazama. Ebafethu ushadile ningambheki oza sisi ushadile ngembiza umadikizele uyazi why. Yeah, come khaya. Yeah, oza la mkhiphe TV mzala bambone. Mkhiphe TV bambone. Lo khuluma nani umember Mudise uyi chairperson e committee. Team engisebenza nayo le ngathi imi ngi1 out la. Hey madoda, I was not aware. We'll take apologies formally. Mr. Mdlalose, do we have formal apologies?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, yes, we do have 3 formal apologies. The first apology being from, 4 apologies. The first apology is from Honorable Member Fuchs, who's indicated that he's unable to attend the meeting due to ill health. The second apology is from Honorable Member Deyache, who indicated that he... Ngiyazwakala manje? The first apology is from Honorable Member Fuchs, who indicated ukuthi akakwazi ukuza emhlanganweni ngoba akazizwa kahle. And then the second apology is from Honorable Member Udeyache, ungakhona ukufika namhlanje because unesifo as attendayo. The third apology, Honorable Member Hoffman, who indicated ukuthi akakwazi ukuza ngenxa ye-party business. And then the fourth apology, HOD, Honorable Member HOD Mutlaning, who indicated ukuthi akakwazi ukufika due to community safety coincide ne portfolio committee yethu. However, Ms. Kanyisile Nene, Chief Director Property Management, no Ms. Cornelia Notaga, Chief Director ye Legal Services ye Department Bazwe represent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mdlalose. Before we receive our first presentation, one of our own, Ntate Jompisi, passed away on Friday morning. He was a resident of Eguruleni. He stayed here in Albertine. Ntate Mpisi has been sick for some time, but as like a soldier that he was, he always put the community first. And this compromised the health for the longest time. But he was prepared to die with his boots on. I request that just for a minute we all stand up and observe a moment of silence for Ntate Mpisi in his honor and memory. Thank you. Thank you so very much for honoring Tate Jompisi. To some of us, he was a mentor, he was a teacher, he was a brother in arms, and he was a comrade. Now moving along, because unfortunately life has to go on, regardless of what happens. And I'm sure we all agree that at the end of the day, death is a necessary end. And by one, it will come to us. Let's take the first presentation. Madigizela, are you ready?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, and good morning to all honorable members. Am I audible enough? Oh, okay, wonderful. Good morning to all honorable members, colleagues and members of the community and all stakeholders. My name is Winnie Ngubane Sambo. I'll be just briefly taking you through the process of processing an expropriation bill in the GPL. The reason why we have this particular short presentation is that some stakeholders have expressed concern about, what exactly goes on when we are processing such a bill in the legislature, and what happens to their submissions. Are they even considered? And the answer to that is obviously a resounding yes, they are considered. And we just wanted to take you into confidence as to what really goes on in the legislature when we are considering this particular bill. So the presentation is structured into two parts. Part one is the introductory section, which is very brief and I won't dwell on it. Part two is the most important part that I want to just dwell on, and that deals with processing a Section 76 bill in the legislature. So the expropriation bill has been categorized as a Section 76 bill, which means that it affects provinces, and that is why we are sitting here with you to solicit your views. So part one is the introduction, and basically just outline what the legislature is, and where is it located in the arms of government or of the state, and its functions, and one of which is, the lawmaking process. That is why we're also here. So I won't dwell on it, and I think it's common cause to most people here. We also just wanted to highlight the types of bills, and the reason why we wanted to highlight the types of bills that are there, some of the types of bills that we come across, is just to locate where the expropriation bill is in terms of the sections under the Constitution. So we have Section 74 bills, which these are bills which amend the Constitution. We have Section 75 bills, which are ordinary bills not affecting provinces. And then we have Section 76 bills, and that's the one highlighted in red. And these are ordinary bills affecting provinces, such as the expropriation bill. So we just wanted to locate or put into perspective where the expropriation bill actually fits in under these types of bills. And then we also have, lastly, Section 77 bills, which are money bills, which we're not dealing with here. Moving on swiftly to the most important part, and that is, so what is the process in the GPL when it comes to processing a Section 76 bill? And I wanted to just take you through this flow diagram. I'm wondering whether people are able to see it. Is it visible enough? Yeah, I think it is. So I'll take you through the first block. So as you all know, these bills, Section 76 bills, emanate from national parliament. And once the National Assembly has passed a bill, it transmits it to the second house, which is the National Council of Provinces. And the National Council of Provinces is that body which looks after the interests of all 9 provinces in national parliament. So the NCOP would informally refer a bill to provincial legislatures before it has formally been introduced or tabled in the House. And once a speaker of a provincial legislature receives that informally referred bill, the speaker will then refer the bill to the relevant committee and the relevant MEC for information and planning. This phase, it's just making the committee alert that there is this bill in the pipeline that is coming. The committee must get ready for it. And then once the bill has been introduced or tabled in the NCOP, the NCOP will then now formally refer the bill to all provincial legislatures. And under this process, timeframes to process the bill will be provided to all the provincial legislatures. And these timeframes are very important because they also inform our program as the legislatures in terms of how much time do we have to process this particular bill. Then the speaker will then formally refer it to the relevant committee and MEC for processing. This is now where the committee now has to sit down and formally consider the bill. And I'll just tell you right in the next few blocks what it means to actually formally consider a bill. The committee will then prepare a plan on how to process the bill. And in that plan, it will include timeframes. Remember the timeframes that have been set by national, the NCOP, those are the timeframes that we'll use as our guideline when we are preparing our plan as the committee. Then the committee will now go through. Thank you. Then the committee will now go through a process of, mass information gathering around this particular bill. It will receive a briefing by the National Department, which is usually the custodian of a Section 76 bill, and also from the NCOP delegate. It will receive a legal opinion from its internal or in-house legal advisor on the constitutionality of the bill. It will receive a socioeconomic analysis on the bill. It will also receive views of the provincial executive. So it's quite it's quite a very detailed process, and this entire process is geared towards empowering members of the members of the committee to really become, fully au fait with all the concepts of the bill, so that when they come to you here during public participation, during the public participation phase, they are already well versed in the bill or on the bill. Then the next part, which is the most important part, is the one highlighted in blue. This is the public participation phase, and this is exactly where we are right now. This is where the committee goes out to solicit public inputs from members of the public, and you may make written submissions, or we can make oral submissions through this platform. And it's a very important step, because this is where we are going to get, inputs that will inform the position of Gauteng as a province on exactly what does Gauteng think of this particular bill. So members of the committee do not sit amongst themselves and decide whether they want this bill or whether they don't want this bill. No, their opinion is always informed by your inputs, and that is why this engagement is so important. And the next phase, after this process has been completed, the next phase is the negotiating mandate, indicating the parameters for negotiating and proposed amendments. So this is where potentially your inputs may be factored in. So if you make relevant inputs that pertain to the bill, this is where, some of your comments or your inputs may be factored in this document that we call the negotiating mandate, which we will send to the NCOP Select Committee, indicating exactly what is the position of Gauteng and what does Gauteng as a province think about this particular bill. So that's why your inputs are so important to us. The next phase is the final mandate. This is where we are indicating whether the province of Gauteng is voting in favor, against, or abstaining from voting. The next phase would be the voting that takes place in the NCOP plenary. Now, each province has one vote, and in order for a bill to pass, at least 5 provinces must vote in favor of the bill. So, if the bill passes, the National Assembly will pass the bill, and then the bill after that was submitted to the President for assent, and it becomes an act. And once that is done, a signed copy is entrusted to the Constitutional Court for safekeeping. So that is just at a very high level what this process entails. And we thought we'd just take you into confidence as to what really goes on when we say we are considering or we are processing a bill in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madikizela. Let's invite the National Department of Public Works to do the same in terms of their presentation. Ngicela umkhiphe TV naye mfowethu. Yeah, nangu yeza. Ozositshela ke angithi senithole the legal part. What are the legalities? Now we are receiving the actual presentation on expropriation. What is this expropriation? What and where can we expropriate as government, and what is it that we need to expropriate? And for what purpose do we do this expropriation?
I'm trying to check. The gentleman, they should have loaded the...
Kaya, is it loaded?
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable MPLs, and public participants. Whilst we are still preparing to go, I thought perhaps I should start with a few explanations regarding the bill that we have come here to present to you this morning. This bill, B23B of 2020, will replace the Expropriation Act of 1975 when it becomes the law. This is the case for a variety of reasons. The single most important reason why we are doing this, why we are coming up with this law, is because since 1993 and through to 1996, when we had the final constitution, the constitution became the supreme law of the country. So every law must be aligned to the constitution. The 1975 Expropriation Act, which is still law, is not aligned to the constitution. Here are some of the things which are not in line with the constitution. Firstly, in the 1975 Act, people or persons who have unregistered rights to property, those unregistered rights are not recognized. So this new bill will recognize people with unregistered rights. To give a typical example, when you go to rural areas, you will always hear people talking about things called PTOs, permissions to occupy. Those are just property rights which are not registered in the deeds office. Now, in terms of the new law, people with PTOs, if you have a PTO, you will be recognized as a property owner or property rights holder. So that is one of the things that this law brings about. And that also aligns to the right in the Constitution, which is the right to equality, because the Constitution requires that all of us, whether you are rich, poor, and whatever color you are, we are equal before the law. So this bill also introduces the requirement of equality. Another thing which is not in the 1975 Act, which this bill is bringing about, is what is called in the Constitution administrative justice. In the 1975 Act, people would just be expropriated without being heard what their side of the story is. Now, in this bill, that will not be the case. One of the things that I think before we proceed I should try to explain is, what is expropriation? Expropriation is, simply put, the compulsory acquisition of property by the state. And when we talk about the state, we refer to the three spheres of government: local, provincial, and national spheres of government. So it is only government in the three spheres in its three spheres which can expropriate property. No private person can expropriate property. Ha hona motho o private o iseng government o ka tseela motho o mong property. It is only government that can expropriate property. So that must be very clear from the outset. And when we talk about property, the Constitution defines property in a very broad sense. And the definition in the Constitution says property includes land. So, which means it can be other types of property besides land. For instance, what is normally referred to as intellectual property, it is also property. Dilo di tshwana le di shares. Shares can also be expropriated. Government can expropriate shares in a company and other things, apart from immovable property, which is land. So those are some of the things that I think we should clear from the beginning. Now, in the Constitution, the Constitution usually uses the wording, open and democratic society. What does that mean? It means that when we want to create an open and democratic society, we come before you in a very transparent and open manner to talk about what government intends. Now, this bill contains rights and responsibilities. Because we want to create an open and democratic society, we want members of the society to know what their rights are and also to know what their responsibilities are. Even government, the same. Government should know what its rights are in terms of this bill and its responsibilities. So each one of us should be able to know what their rights and responsibilities are, so that when we interact, when we bring this bill into operation, there is no one who steps on each other's toes. We should also be able to know what we are supposed to be doing. I will cover the most important aspects of this bill, which are the requirements and the procedure. I have already dealt with the constitutional requirement that this bill intends to give effect to Section 25 of the Constitution, which we normally refer to as the property clause. It seeks to align itself to the property clause. Now, the 1975 Act only contained a requirement that you can only expropriate for a public purpose. This bill will introduce another requirement, which is that you can expropriate for a public purpose or a public interest. When we talk about the public purpose, purpose is normally the work of government broadly. When government provides services through the various pieces of legislation, that is what is called public purpose. For instance, when the Department of Water and Sanitation builds a dam, that is a public purpose. That dam provides water to a municipality and you get it from your tap. That is a public purpose. Government provides education through schools. That is a public purpose. The hospitals that you go to when you're not well, it is a service that government provides to its citizenry, and it is a public purpose. Now, when we talk about the public interest, it is very broad. The Constitution defines public interest to include the nation's commitment to land reform and reforms to bring about equitable access to natural resources. Now, when we talk about land reform, we are referring to 3 programs that are run by the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform. The program of restitution of land rights, tenure reform, and land redistribution. Those are the 3 programs of land reform. And according to the Constitution, land reform is a national competence. In other words, it is only a national minister, the national minister of public or of rural development and land reform, who can receive and process claims for restitution of land rights. In other words, a municipality, you cannot go and lodge a claim at a municipality or at a provincial government department. You can only go to the Department of Rural Development, which is a national department, to lodge a restitution claim or to apply for land redistribution, or to apply when you want a title deed, you have a PTO, you want to have a title deed to land in the rural areas, you go to the Department of Rural Development. So that is part of the public interest that we are referring to. And access to natural resources could, amongst others, include things like when you again live in the rural areas and sometimes in the cities where people apply for particular types of licenses. For instance, a fishing license. A fishing license, when you fish so that you can make a living, when you apply for that license, you want to have access to a natural resource, because water and the fish in the water, those are things that come from God. We did not create them as people. So we are providing access to those natural resources. So public interest says that access to that natural resource should be equitable. In other words, everyone should have same opportunities to apply for those licenses. Now, this bill is a framework piece of legislation. In other words, it provides the procedure for other expropriating authorities to guide them on how to expropriate. There are many expropriating authorities. For instance, municipalities expropriate on a daily basis throughout the country. The provincial government, through different departments, expropriate. They have powers to expropriate. For instance, for the building of roads, for housing and so forth. The national sphere of government, through, again, government departments, can expropriate. They have the powers to expropriate through different government departments. Even state-owned organs can expropriate, like SANRAL, your ESCOM and others, PRASA, Transnet, Airports Company of South Africa. They have the power to expropriate through their pieces of legislation. Now, clause 5 of the bill tells us what needs to happen before an expropriation can take place. Firstly, we have to identify the need to expropriate. And that need is done through an investigation of the suitability of the property for expropriation. When we investigate the suitability of a property to be expropriated, things like ownership and other rights such as your restitution claims, your servitudes and so forth, those are the type of rights that are inquired into, so that we know that this type of property can be expropriated for a particular need that has been identified. And when that suitability is investigated, sometimes professionals are used. You use professionals such as valuers. Sometimes you may need to use other property practitioners and property economists, estate agents, and so forth, so that they are the ones who have got the professional knowledge as to exactly how much this property can be worth, what it can be used for, and what rights are on that property. Municipalities also can guide in terms of the zoning, property rates on the property involved, as well as the services around that property, the bulk services that are available around that property. And also information as to whether there are mortgage rights on that property would also be an important aspect during the needs identification. Once this aspect has been dealt with, the expropriating authority can now proceed to a stage where they issue what is called a notice of intention to expropriate. So, if the municipality intends to expropriate a farm for purposes of housing nearby Duduza, they would need, one of the steps they need to do is to issue to the property owner a notice of intention to expropriate. This takes place in terms of clause 7 of this bill, and the notice of intention to expropriate is served on the owner of the property and persons who've got rights to that property. During that process, the issue of compensation should also be taken into account. Clause 12 of this bill deals with the issue of compensation. And the standard that we use to determine compensation, which is set by the Constitution, is the standard of just and equitable compensation. And this standard means you take all relevant factors into account when you determine compensation. And once you have taken all the relevant factors into account, it means during the negotiations to acquire the property owner may emerge on the amount of compensation. The bill provides that there has to be mediation. And this is provided for in clause 19. And if mediation does not yield results, the matter would be referred to court, which will decide whether the offer of the expropriating authority is just and equitable. Once that stage of notice of intention to expropriate has been dealt with, the next step that follows would be notice of expropriation. In other words, the expropriating authority, if it's the municipality would now issue the affected owner with a notice of expropriation. Or if the expropriating authority is the Minister of Rural Development, if they are expropriating land for restitution purposes or for redistribution, then the Minister of Rural Development would have to issue a notice of expropriation. The notice of expropriation must comply with clause 8 of the bill. At that stage, when the notice to expropriate is served on the property owner, ownership passes from the owner to the expropriating authority immediately. In other words, once the notice is served and the owner receives the notice, if there is no dispute, then that property becomes the property of the expropriating authority. And if it's property that is expropriated for land reform purposes, it means the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform will be expropriating for either a group of beneficiaries, which could be a community, or individual people who may have lodged land claims. That is just an example of an example of an expropriation. Or SANRAL can expropriate property that belongs to a private person to build a highway or to expand a road and so forth. So that is why I indicated that there are many expropriating authorities, SANRAL, municipalities, rural development, Department of Environment, and so forth. They can expropriate for different reasons. It can happen that when the notice of expropriation is served, when ownership passes, an agreement is reached between the parties that you, the owner, remain in possession of that property. The expropriating authority does not take immediate possession of the property. That arrangement can be made. And when that happens, there are certain things that must be agreed to. Firstly, when possession is delayed, the date must be agreed to when that possession will pass to the expropriating authority. And when possession remains with the owner, it means the owner will still be responsible for maintenance of the property because he or she will be the user. They'll be responsible for paying municipal rates and charges and so forth until the date of when the parties would have agreed that possession passes back to the expropriating authority. There could be instances where there is a dispute. A dispute may arise with regard to the amount of compensation. And when such disputes are not settled in time, then the compensation money can be deposited with the master of the High Court. And sometimes it can happen that some people with property rights come forward much later after compensation has been determined. Now, in that situation, there has to be some proportionality with regard to the value of compensation. That is something that must be taken into account. There is also an aspect of agent expropriation. It may happen that sometimes government requires property urgently to meet a particular public interest matter. That requirement is a temporary one and may not exceed a year. Compensation must still be paid for such type of an expropriation, and it usually happens that it could be, for instance, for things like where, for instance, there is a, floods, there are floods, or an experience we went through as a country when there was the COVID pandemic. There could be other instances which are numerous and which we may not be aware of, where it may be necessary sometimes to use the power of agent expropriation. So this is provided for in clause 20 of the bill, and sometimes once the expropriating authority has invoked this power, the expropriating authority may decide that no, actually, we require this property permanently. So the bill provides a mechanism where the procedures in the bill can be engaged and the property acquired permanently. Sometimes an expropriating authority acquires property compulsorily and decides after taking that decision that they no longer want to proceed with the expropriation. The bill also provides that the expropriating authority can change its mind, and this is provided for in clause 21. However, this power of withdrawal can only be utilized by the expropriating authority if it is in the public interest or the reason for the expropriation no longer exists. And as I've indicated, it must be exercised within 3 months, and the effect of this is that it restores the affected parties to the position they were in before the expropriation. And the expropriating authority will be liable for reasonable costs and damages incurred by the person who would be affected. Another interesting aspect which is introduced by this bill is that it is now going to be a requirement that expropriating authorities should have, the expropriating authority should have an expropriation register. This will enable government to know how much property has been expropriated, the nature of the property, and the localities of those expropriations. And this will actually facilitate better decision making on the part of government. So there are other aspects of the bill which are very important, because they impinge on people's rights. For instance, the serving of notices. People have to be provided with adequate notice. There has to be publishing of documents, of notices, and this must be done in the language that people understand and in the manner that people can easily access. This is provided for in clauses 22, 23, 25, 27, and 30. And this brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We find the technical. I am getting a very bad feedback here. Okay. Thank you so much for presentation on the nitty-gritty of what this expropriation bill and what is it that seeks to do and seeks to achieve. We are now entering a session where everything is about you. Those of you who wants to speak, you'll be given a chance to speak. When you speak, you'll be informed how many minutes you are going to. Oh, ngizwakala. I think izwe ngathi iyarasa le. Mama sehlisa isandla bazokunika isikhathi sokuthi ukhulume. All we want you to notice is that Kaya, the chairs are here, ne? Kaya, the chairs. Oh yeah. Manzokhuluma bazokukhomba bakunika inamba uzosuka la ukhona kuneyitulo la uzohlala la bese uyakhuluma uzotshelwa ukuthi wena uzokhuluma for how long in terms of minutes. All we ask, yabona ni respecteke kanjani nithulile nimamele yonke into. Siyacela ke umuntu makala akhuluma and he or she says something that you don't like, you don't have to respond to it. Akakhulume nawe. Ukhuluma his feelings, ukhuluma her feelings about what has been presented. You don't have to like it. Imamele, it's okay. If you feel that you are frustrated, you are angry and all of that, you still have a right to come and speak here. As long as you don't fight with anyone, as long as you don't insult anyone. Tinala, suzohlala, sikmamele, anything that you say it. We'll record it. So that when we go back and consolidate, we are able to capture your views. We are able to capture what you have said to us. And before we start, let me take this opportunity to welcome 3 important people who have joined our meeting. I saw Honorable Member Khatebe in the meeting. Ngicela ukubingelela abantu Member Khatebe. Thank you, Member Khatebe. She's also from here in Ekurhuleni. I had indicated earlier that she's here. She had went out, she's back. The Speaker of the Gauteng Legislature, Mentombi Mehwe. Some of you know her. She doesn't even have to stand up. But siyacela siyazi ukuthi uyijwayele lena nto mama. Kodwa sicela bakhiphe TV sikubone TV. Ngicela bakhiphe TV ma. Mfowethu, awumkhiphe phela TV. Cameraman. Man, awu uzoxoshisa phela emsebenzini. Khipha uspeaker TV. Amboni. Uzosixoshisa lo muntu. Phela iboss yethu le mfethu. Saxosha. Our boss lady. Ayo uyabona. I'll save him imsebenzi yethu Thami. Uzamile man. And then there's protocol yangishaya mamkhidi. Ke queen ne? Ndlovukazi. Yes, Ndlovukazi Mangethe Zikode. We've got umama Veronica Zwane uMangethe. Sicela usukume ma uphuma le eRoyal House mama sebukhosini lo. Mangethe. Ungasabi ma. Wena sicela ungakhulumi kule meeting namhlanje. Siyacela. Mfowethu mama sukuma phela ngibonanga iTV. Mfo soxoshwa phela. Ma sukuma bakubona abantu bakhiphe TV. Ubonaka. Hawu. Yes, hawu bayedi. Sesiyayicelela ke mazwane. Sicela wena ungakhulumi namhlanje kule meeting. Sicela umamela ukuthi bathina abantu. Wena namanye amakhosi sine meeting special between thina committee namakhosi kuphela. From everyone from the royal family, from royal house, royal blood, we are meeting as a committee and yourselves. Today sifuna nje nimamele ukuthi bathina abantu benu ngomhlaba. Member Njoko, I hand over to you.
Sanibonani mphakathi. Sanibonani mphakathi. Ngiyezwakala? Ninjani? Hayi asibonge. Esizokwenza manje sizothatha ngeinamba ne. Sizothatha imibono yenu njengomphakathi enifuna ukuyindlulisa lana kithi. So sizoqala ngapha kule site leli. Ngaku right wami. So abafuna ukuveza imibono yabo ngicela baphakamisa izandla nizoza ngeinamba kanjalo ngizonibiza kanjalo. Sicala ngapha. 1 Puti. 1 2 Putiza lapha emuva. Number 2. Oh, mama, askis. Oh, uNkulunkulu wami Jesus Christ. 3. Okay, 4 mama nawe ngapha. Number 3 Puti. Number 3. Okay. Abobhuti bethu noma bethu laba bala ngaphambili sizonikeza nje 5 minutes each ekuthenini nisho imbono yenu. Ngiyabonga. Uqala ngokuthi uzisho igama lakho nesibongo and then bese ungena endabeni.
Sanibonani. Mina ngoHenry ngokwazwane. Ayingcono ngisukuma. Vele ngizizwa kahle mangimile mangihlezi phansi ngathi anginiboni kahle. Nginewari iclose thank you. Nginewari iclose enigcine ngayo nithe we need to have enough time so that we can say whatever. Ku close 22, 23 and 25 if I'm not mistaken. Mama senikhuluma nge5 minutes seyangwarisa seyithatha ilungelo lami. Baholi angibonga ukuthola leli thuba nginokuthi ngizwe kuthiwa kunama analysis kuthiwe kuziwe kubantu singazange sibone kuziwa kithi. So namhlanje siyakubona kuyenzeka. Thank you so much for that. With regard to indaba yalomthetho wa section 25 angifuni ukuya ezintweni eziningi but la engine concern khona kusendabeni ye payment ngizonikhuluma nimention clause 12 if I'm not mistaken. Lapho ekhona kumele kubhadalwe. Ngine question ukuthi amabhunu mayithatha umhlaba. Amabhunu mayithatha umhlaba wethu aye consulta nobani. Athi ngiphinde. Amabhunu mayithatha umhlaba wabantu abamnyama kwakuhlalwa iniphansi koxoxwa kanje mangabe thina namhlanje sekuzofuneka siba compensate. So I'm of the view ukuthi masifuna umhlaba wethu awubuye kithi. But ke nginewari ke ukuthi kunomhlaba otholwa ubuyisele kubantu. Lo mhlaba ubuyisele kubantu mabe uthatha abantu bengawusebenzisi. Ukuthi umhlaba njengalowo kimi kubuye ukuthi kungathi kunelasehluleka khona njengabantu abamnyama ukuthi lo mhlaba mangabe sesutholile kuyasehlula ukusebenzisa. Now ugovernment wethu wenza njani to assist abantu mabethola umhlaba bakwazi ukusebenzisa. ngiyabona la kulinyiwe nje mawuza ngapha amabhunu ayosebenzisa umhlaba mase siwuthatha thina sizokwakha imkhukhu sokusho ukuthi manje la sekugcina kuyizwe lemkhukhu okunye ngifuna ukucela ngicela ugovernment abamsane nathi abantu bangaphandle abahambe yiba bagcwele la basakhela kuze kube nemkhukhu nje ababuyele emakubo bakithi bayokhanda imkhukhu khona nathi ukuhlupheka kwethu kube ngokwethu amabhunu ngizwile ukuthi bekufanele bekhona la ngizokuthiwa apologizeile I'm sorry ukukhuluma ngathi kuba nenhlese ezepolitiki but amabhunu ngibona awekho kimi bekuzoba kuhle ukuthi kube bekakhona sisho straight ukuthi amabhunu afuna imali eningi ezweni lethu alithatha ngenkani siwufuna back angithi umhlaba ngowethu ababuyele phela eHolland nathi sisale nokuhlupheka kwethu kuthi lamabhunu azwelana nabantu abamnyama aphile nathi ngifuna ukwenza example emakhampanini ngifuna ukusho lokubahula ukuthi lamabhunu awekho bengifuna ukutshela wona straight yabona emakhampanini abelungu yabonakala ukuthi ngathi kahle kahle abelungu abasifuni lokho kwangempela ngize nginanewari ngathi thina sivotela amabhunu awasifuni lokho kwangempela wakhuluma ngemali ukuthi kufuneka sinikezwe imali amabhunu enza sure ukuthi imali umuntu omnyama akangayitholi into nje kuthiwa imali akangayitholi kuningi izinto esingazisho sizibonayo kuma nje la emafemini former mayor wethu lana okade uthi uchairperson sekahambile amakhampani asekurulile agcwele abantu bangaphandle amabhunu aqasha abantu bangaphandle ngenhloso ukuthi thina abantu izwe lethu ligcine li-captured izwe lethu liyahamba sikhona sibuka amabhunu alekelana nabantu bangaphandle izwe lethu alihambe so mina I'm of the view ukuthi asingabaniki imali yethu abangayitholi nje imali abangayitholi umuntu mayengawusebenzisa umhlaba ubuyele kubantu bese ugovernment yasisiza ukuthi siwusebenzise umhlaba ngicela ukuma lapho kwamanje entshosho ngiyakubingelela lapho ngizwile ukuthi ungakhulumi you've got the right of speak today ngiyakunika ipermission I thank you
sanibonani ninjani umama ome ngaphambili uMamthandi wakaMaseko osuka eDavidton eThwathwa nami ngisukunyiswa ubuhlungu singabahlali sihlala endaweni kodwa sitshelwa ukuthi indawo abamhlophe siyaxolisa asikho lapho kodwa kuyiqiniso ukuthi sikhulume lokho asinandawo endaweni kuna Scotta camp esisethwathwa lesi Scotta camp sina 23 years silapha ya sihlala abahlali kuthiwa indawo akuyona eyethu so sinabahlali futhi abalimayo abanamasimu lamasimu akuwona amasimu enough for bona ngoba singanandawo bayalima lapha ya abanagandaganda abalethelwa wona abana lutho balima ngezandla ingadi zabo so bengicela ukubuzela ikakhulu thina esihlala eScotta campini ukuthi ezinjengoba kuthiwa asinandawo sihlezi endaweni for 23 years iScotta camp lesa igama laso yiSteve Biko so sabhalela la ekhaya kwa legislator ngo2019 sine certificate konke kwala ekhaya but still asibizwa sizotshelwa ukuthi kwenzakalani ezinjengabahlali abangakhoni nokuthola iservice endaweni iservice yethu ayikho right for thina kuba iservice anyana encane because sihlala endaweni engekho ekuthiwa ayikho emthethweni ngabe thina ezabahlali bakahulumeni sisizwe sika government but manje uma kuthiwa asikho emthethweni but sibakhona emthethweni ngezikhathi zamavoti besicela ukubuza ukuthi siyini kahle sihlala kule ndawo asinagesi asinama entrance indawo i1 engenayo lapha ya just istrade si1 esingenayo asinalutho imigwaco imoto zethu ziyafa lapha yana igodi akulungiswa itrada azikho imoto zifa njalo ama-ambulance awangeni masowabiza kumele aye endaweni e-right lapho sizowahlangabeza khona awangeni ama-ambulance yindawo ezinjengoba sithi indawo emnyama akunagesi laphana ubugebengu bugcwele ngale ndlela esingakhoni nathi singabahlali ukuchaza kutshontshwa izimoto zibekwe khona laphaya ngoba indawo enganagesi konke kuyenzeka nje okubuhlungu laphayana besicela siyayicela le ndawo siyayicela uhulumeni usithengele le ndawo sicela indawo yokhokho bethu indawo yethu siyisizwe simpisholo kungani kuthiwa sinandawo for 23 years lokhu sitshela ukuthi asinandawo sicela umhlaba wokulima number 1 sicela indawo leyana iphase ibe yethu thina abantu kungangeni inhlangano kumanje kuzogcwala inhlangano endaweni yethu zizobe ishintshana lapha zifuna amavoti ethu ekubeni sibe singanakwa ukuthi siyini lapha singabantu abaphilayo noma sibona abantu abaphilayo siyacela ke sine 23 years eSteve Biko eThwathwa eDaviton sicela indawo sinikeze ngokusemthethweni silungisele nathi sinikezwe ama-services abahlali sicela izindawo zokulima sicela ukulungiselwa izitradi ama-ambulance makubiza ama-ambulance kuthiwa abizwa atholakala asuka mhlambe eThembisa of which kuyinto wrong leyo ama-ambulance awekho enough endaweni yethu yokuhlala siyacela kakhulu siyacela ngiyabonga
Sanibonani igama lami uGive Mafuyeka ngibuya eBoksburg eWard 33 Central Sub-Region la kumele singajikajiki la bahlali into lekhona lana bekumele ngabe asifundiswa ngoku-expropriator more especially mangabe sikhuluma nge-expropriator umhlaba leye ma-property nani zakamuva mas expropriator umhlaba mangibhekile mina akumelanga sicela ipermission kumuntu mangabe kuzomela sicela ipermission kumele sibuyele back to 1913 la amabhuno amenda usection 3 owabo thina bekungekho lobeka representa abantu abamnyama so ngibuye futhi la ku speaker sokucala lana makathi uzwile ukuthi kuzoba namabhuno la eholweni namhlanje so uyaxolisa ukukhuluma ngawo angekho asiwahlebu uzoxolisa kanti bona ba apologize ukuthi bayabohlangana bakhuluma ngathi so wena ngapha uloku uyaxolisa ukuthi ukhulume ngabo kabi kusho ukuthi uyabancenga so thina lana sicela nje ukuthi ugovernment wethu asamendele yena lo section 25 njengoba nabo bakhona kuamenda section 3 owabo lo amele bona nathi abalethe lokhu okuvuna thina thank you
Sanibonani lo khulumayo la uStutu isibongo uManuel ngibuye eMablithini isibongo uManuel ngibuya eMablithini zinkokheli njoba sila njoba nihleli sinibhekile lana sanivotela amavota yeza manje sizonivotela kodwa lapho esihlala khona thina endaweni yethu sife ngo 2001 njoba ngiphethwe iflu ngula namhlanje fanele ngigibele ngihambe ngiyoshona eBosberg asina clinic asina police station noma ngalimala umuntu manje la fanele ubizi Uber monganayo imali yeUber abantu abanye abasebenzi uyephi uye Don Park azikho izinto ezasihleli nje ngezinja zilahliwe kodwa savotela abantu abamnyama abafana nani nisibukela phansi abelungu bayaphakamisana sizwe simnyama abalahlani khona manje namhlanje nibhekeni sibheka ukunikhuphula sinivotele kodwa kulonyaka ozayo siyoloko sihamba sithuthuza kunganamgwaqo kunganani lokho singanama clinic sihlele ebumnyameni khona manje lapha eMabeletheni kunabantu esabafika abahlala lapha eMabeletheni banemikhukhu kusehlathini into ongayibona lapha labantu abayihlalayo uyabona njengoba kubanda kunjena kunetha balele izingubo zimanzi banabantwana abancane kodwa nikhona sanikhuphula sithi umbuso sawuthatha suthatha kanjani umbuso makusekhona umuntu omnyama ohluphekayo njoba lo baba besho lo baba ukuthi amazwe alabelunga wathathwa ngani ngoba umhlaba kwangowethu umhlaba ungakanani njoba labantu bahlupheka njoba besiza ngapha umhlaba sawubona omunye abasawulimi uhleli nje umhlaba sifuna ukwenza amabhizinisi sihleli lapha ukuthi solima asikhoni nikhona nina okufanele nizivulele intuthuko ukuthi sithuthuke sephambili yini nina ama-official ningake nize endaweni zethu nizosibuka ukuthi sihlala kanjani nike nifike nje nithatha isikhathi nihambe nibuka ukuthi la kuphilwa yiphi impilo njalo lena ngisho ithi ehlala labantu lapha ehlathini mongayibona le mpilo ngeke uyithande labantu bahleli nama foreigner sifikile kulabantu lapha into eyiningi lapha yini i-foreigner ibusa labantu bathi asikwazi nokukhuluma sinasela iseyo ama foreigner siyabukelelwa nje ama foreigner ugovernment samvotela ukuthi athatha ama foreigner azogibela kithi sizwe ngeforeigner namhlanje uyezwa ukuthi kuyaliwa ezindawo kuyafiwa abantu eMabelethini namhlanje kusakufelo ayikho into eyenzekayo niyazi ngesikhathi samabhono ngabe sengenile amasoja uthulile nje ugovernment kufa izinja kufa inkukhu asazo report up siyothini sicela nisithathele le ndaba anike isilungiseleni le ndaba asikwazi ukuthi singalimala ngaka singakwazi ukuhamba makushaya nje u7 awusafuneka esiradini kodwa ngesikhathi saka government kwagijima amalokhuza amapatrol ngapha nangapha noma uvalela indlu uhlala endlini afika ugovernment avale indlu kodwa nofika uzokuvulela ungena athi uzobhadala kodwa ugovernment wathi namhlanje wenzani thumela abantu abambethe into ebovu njana nabo sisi bakuthatha bakulahle phandle mabakulahla phandle lapha ngeke ubuyele endlini uyanetha nabantwana yini lesayivotela sicela nisilungiseleni bakithi asini accused ibhlungu impilo esiphilayo phansi ibhlungu singazi ukuthi sobuyela khona manje sinibona namhlanje sophinde sikhulume nobani ngolosingaki ngiyabonga
Okay, siyabonga mphakathi. Sesizoza ngapha kule side ke. One baba, number 2 kuzoba ubaba, number 3 kuzoba usisi, number 4 kuzoba ubaba lana. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cela nizisho igama nesibongo bantu abadala.
Molweni sanibonani Dumelani awusheni othethayo ngusibongile wakwamajama uhlala lapha eDuduza eward e98 phansi kokhansela uThabo Mjawungu ndinalomama bephakanyiswa apha abadinga uSpeaker we-legislature ndilingqanga nenzibazayo kumlisela nomthinjana mna ndizawumela nje isiparivatel esi silapha ngasedamini lamazi xa ubheka eNiger zikhulu zam sineminyaka iliqela sikule ndawo xa sithetha ngezomhlaba namhlanje singabafuyi abakhasayo sange sicele emntwini kodwa ke sasiziqalele lo program leyo into enayo siyawuhalela umhlaba uba nathi siyabona abantu bayafumana expanda because of umhlaba asikwazi umuva thina kule ndawo sikuyo because of umhlaba sinomakhelwana bamabhulu abapha kufutshane I remember komnye unyaka I call uThabo Mjawungu
sisilwa nomlungu ephethe umuntu omnyama akabathanda ufranda ngathi inguye ophethe izibhamu ezibini silwela umhlaba ebuza inkomo zami zitya njani apha ndithi mna ayithetha ngesikade isikade ngikwazi esixhoseni ngumbono ophilayo asithethi ngamadiza thina ndithetha ngesikade mhlekazi ubunento engapha uzanixeba ufumene njalo lo mhlaba sade sawumisana ke police station ayijele bayisombulula kamapolisa inoba sina into 18 years sinezinkomo hlala lapha and eyona nto ibhlungu inkomo zethu kulo mhlaba singenawo bathi xa bethengisela abantu abamnyama bethu around our place bathi ningazithengi ezaa nkomo because zitya amakhimbi thengane zethu ngoba ezethu zisafety siyaziva ke ezo ntsholo ezo sibona uba asina-alternative silinde urhulumente azofika kuthi njengangoba nifikile sincedeni bantu abaphambili bethu sifuneleni umhlaba azinamanzi inkomo zethu pha into enake siyazama sizama ukufundisa ngazo abantwana kulaa nto ibikuyathethwa sisithethi sokuqala ebesiphaa soba imali azikho ebelungwini azikho nyhani sifundisa ngamacebo alusizi abantwana bethu sidibanisa ama-10 enyembezi kubalo sifuna babe zigraduate bakwazi uhlala kula maqonga ndinomntwana mna ngoku unyana wam wesibini wenza i-honors e-University of Bloemfontein wenza yona le agriculture una-21 years I try to push him ukuthi enze agriculture azoncedisana nam baloku andifundanga mna ndenzela bazo-advance agriculture andiyazi uba xa ndimqhuba le esikolweni uba makaye uzawuthi awugqiba ezo masters ezo honors zakhe awufumane phi nomhlaba wokusebenza kule expropriation into ndiyayiva sizawuyenza bantu bakuthi ndimvile utata ngoba erepresenta apha sizawuyenza maqabane sizawutshovana ngezifuba nabamhlophe ndimelene nabo phaa ecakwam kuphumuyise womntana ubulewe yiCovid 2 years back kungena abantwana ndithi kubo people shall share mandiqhekezele umhlaba ngumhlaba nam ndilapha bathi awukwazi Mr. Majama funeka uye kwagribhe naye kwagribha ke asifakane imilomo asivane andiyazi uba kutheni ngoba uthi mna ndihlutha umhlaba belungu ndithi andihluthi umhlaba more than ukuthi ndiyabancedisa ndizama ukuthi ibuhlungu bantu bakuthi into esinayo siyazama utetema siyazama uthini akho nto ziyifumanayo urhulumente uyasinceda thina mafama lapha I think last week ubezostofela inkomo uyasinceda urhulumente into nje inqabileyo ngumhlaba akakathi nalo idlelo ndithi sitshovana ngezifuba kulo mhlaba endoda enamandla isiwayicaleni ingene ngenamandla ndibuye kuyo loo mfazo leyo ibuhlungu abantu bakuthi loo nto leyo because abantwana bethu siyafuna uba basincedise kwi-farming thina ngabanye we've got i-basic ye-farming from emakhaya ukulima siyakwazi into ezingenayo i-knowledge yesikolo iyasibulala ke that's why si-advance abantwana siyanicela macomrade I don't want to talk about ivote wathini mna ndi-ANC ezozenditshintshe ndawude ndiyobekwa ilitye ndifunga utata nomama ndawude ndiyobekwa ilitye yho ndiyilahle laa ntlangana because ndisuka nawo kude kakhulu asizingabazali kabantwana funeka sizale uze ilizwe lande oo-EFF ngabantwana bethu funeka sizale xa ngumzali endlini zala ukuze ifamily yande that is very important note ndiyacela kakhulu mna ndingutata Majama ngomhlaba ndisincede asinamanzi niyayivala entlungu ndithi iinkomo zethu ziyathuka kuthiwa zitya amakhimbi bazoqhuba abantu elokishini bawuthenga ezabo abantu bethu kwingxaki abathanda iAfrikaans ndababona once athethe Afrikaans umlungu umntu ukhupha imali ukhupha loo 15,000 xa indim ade Majama yohaza entloko iyadura le nkomo ndincame ndisacrifice namba ndifuna le mali thank you
Sanibonani ninjani ngibonga kakhulu ukubona inkokheli zethu namhlanje zikhona kule ndawo ngiyacabanga ukuthi abaningi bayangazi ngike ngivela kaningi lapha eTV ngivela kaningi lapha eTV Yeah, ngivela kaningi lapha kumabona kude igama lami uAndile isibongo uMadiba uTila. Manje ke ngimelana sibonga kakhulu ukuthi inkokheli namhlanje kakhulu zikhona la ekuruleni zizoxazulula inkinga zethu. Okokuqala ke ngithanda ukusho ukuthi ngiswabe kakhulu ukuthi kube khona iprovince kodwa iholo libe ngalendlela elingayo. Kukhona iprovince, kukhona abantu abakhulu abahlonishwa abalandela inational iprovince. Ya kodwa iholo libe ngaka kusobala ukuthi as iprovince niyabona ukuthi kunomsebenzi ekumele niwenze kakhulu kubantu enibaphethe lapha phansi. Ukuthi sengathi umsebenzi okanye imessage ayidluli ngendlela ekumele ukuthi idlule ngayo. Mina ngizwe izolo ukuthi kunalo meeting ongalendlela. Kuyabonakala ukuthi ke imessage abantu abayazi okanye kukhona into efihlwayo asazi ke. Okay. Nginemibuzo ke emibili bese ke nami ngihlale phansi. Ngiyabonga kakhulu baba Majama. Nami ngingumfuyi ngineenkomo khona la akhuluma khona. But angeke ngisaqhubekela kakhulu. Siyacela kakhulu kinina enisiphethe. Kakhulu sicela ukuthi nisinikeze umhlaba. Amabhunu ayasihlupha la kule ndawo singabafuyi. Nithe izwe malibuyele kithi ezabantu abamnyama. Sifunde ukufuya. Sifuyile inkomo, imbuzi na konke lezinto. Kodwa asinawo amandla ngoba kunamabhunu akhona and umhlaba sina more than 20 something years silapha kule ndawo sifuyile. Kodwa sinali iphepha elithi le ndawo yeyenu. Futhi noma imfuyo yethu yanda na ungaphuma la kule holo ungapha ngasemuva ubheke lapha kungathi imikhukhu kungathi ilokishi. Yibaya zethu thina abantu abamnyama. Kodwa na ngathi uyabheka ukuthi ubuza ukuthi liphi iphepha lokuthi uyayiowna le ndawo okanye lo mhlaba. Indawo yethu incane, inkomo zethu azikhona ukuthi zinone njengezinkomo zamabhunu. Sisizeni ke inkokheli zethu. Sinikhethile ukuthi nizosisiza. Enye into engicela kakhulu kuinkokheli zethu wozani phansi nizomonitor ukuthi lento enibathuma yona mhlambe laba bantu abancane nithi mabagijime phansi nina nenza imithetho phezulu. Kodwa kukhona abantu enifanele nibathume phansi. Asingabe sisikhuluma ngalendlela ningaboni ukuthi lento esikhuluma iyenzeka na. Kakhulu ngicela ukuthi kube khona ilink phakathi kweprovince nomasipala. Kube khona ilink ngoba uthi uye ema-ofisini akamasipala lento enikhulumayo la bafike bayishintshe bona benze ngeyabo indlela. Singasazi ke manje ukuthi sireporta kuphi ngoba simzwile uma nizosithulela but manje nakufanele kwenzeke sekwenzeka ngenye indlela. Ngingumfundisi ningamangali ivoice nathi yaphakama. Manje ke siyacela ukuthi kube khona ilink enhle phakathi kakhulu le office abathi real estates. Sicela ukuthi nike niyilungise ngoba nina niyakhuluma and then bona nasesifika kubo bafike basichithe basifune lokhu nalokho uze udele uhambe. Manje siyacela ukuthi anke nize nizomonitor anke nizobheka ukuthi ingabe yonke into yenze ingabe lezi zinto esifuna ukuthi size silethe emphakathini ingabe yenzeka na okanye kunabantu abayivala wona lamabhunu kulama office lawa ama CCC ayayivala lento eniletha anke nize nizohlola. Isicelo sami. Number 2 esinye isicelo sami ngicela ukuthi le bill enithi niyiphethe la bengisacela abanye even kwayona le constitution nikhuluma ngezinto ezinkulu ama-clause amakhulu. Kufana nomuntu oshumayelayo otshela abantu ngeBhayibheli abantu bangalazi. Angeniletheni lamabhili ebantwini. Sike siphe lento enikhuluma ngayo sike siyibone ibe khona every household. ibe nale bill sike sipho ngoba into ebhekene nathi le even kwayona iconstitution yasezweni ankeni sinikezeni yona ingene njengamaphepha werent iBhayibheli lethu leli sike silifunde siyacela ngoba sigcina sesiphikisana ngento esingayazi omunye uthi i-right omunye athi akusi-right sigcina sexabana sode emphakathini ngoba siyazi ukuthi sigcina ngokuyifundelwa yini okanye sinibone TV niyisho angeniyilete kuma-CCC ikidilive every household kube khona ibill kube khona i-constitution icopy ye-constitution ngiyacela mina ngingumfundisi okay indaba yamabandla ngiyacela kakhulu indaba yamabandla kunini from la ngikhona ngina more than 10 years ngihlala khona nginebandla solo ngikhona lapha anginayo ngenza izinto emphakathini ngisiza abantu benyawupe njengoba ningibona lapha eTV ngisiza abantu benyawupe ukuthi mababe right lapha enkonzweni inkonzo yami ifana neholo lomphakathi but ngifuna ukunitshela ukuthi anginamanzi angina infrastructure but ngisiza umphakathi yonke into engiyenza ngiyenzela umphakathi manje akasazi ukuthi nithi senze kahle singabafundisi singamabandla emphakathini sithi senza kahle kodwa sikhona ukuthola nasifika ama-CCC nginayo incwadi abanginikeze yona ukuthi ngiyisebenzise indawo kodwa ekuthenini ukuthi bangifakele amanzi ke into esimple ikliniki beyeza laba abathatha amapilisi bazowathatha esontweni lami abantu kune-feeding scheme esontweni lami abantu kunama-training enzeka esontweni lami kodwa nginamanzi anginathoilet fathi ngisebenzisa umgodi abantu baphuze ini and mina ngizama ukusizana no-government abantu ba-government bayeza lapha anisizeni kumabandla asingahlale endaweni more than 20 years singena infrastructure yileyo nto leyo ngicela ngiyabonga kakhulu
sanibona njani angibambi mina nguSamuel Mashimzi from Tembisa ngiappreciate for the opportunity le ukuthi umuntu raise ama views wakhe ngicela ukubuza igovernment inayo capacity na to expropriate the land and use it for a public use currently we are aware ukuthi the issue of land is very sensitive and therefore siyayisebenzisa to score ama points in which is not fair mind you ukuthi njengoba singaka la after 10 years or 20 years of singekho so share in I'm concerned regarding real estate also ethembisa kunama buildings amaningi ngikhula kunama shops awasekho lama shops at least ngikhula kunama ground informal where abantu bahloma imikhukhu or ayisetshenziswa but ama ground awasabi khona so labantwana kumele badlalele kuphi the other point ukuthi asikwazi uku-access i-skills development center ethembisa abantu bakutshela bama officials ukuthi ngiyaxolisa videographer ngicela ukubabheka mntaka mama uyazi ukufulathela ikhulu bozothi ya undermine school zami asikwazi uku-attend ukulento uku-access i-skills development center ethembisa social workers bazokutshela ukuthi this is not for public so kune public le kuyithi ne public kwama officials na if isidina yabantwana i-right ukuthi badlale isoccer why you see kunama shops abathi mayimela ngalethembiso eWard 14 ngikhula kune dairy ne butchery ne fruit shop ne supermarket ihlezi manje that building mawubuza ku city of Ekurhuleni bakutshela ukuthi iprovince in terms of ama properties lawa bewa owner abantu bakithi the other part ukuthi sometimes nginokuba ne problem ucalculate ama years but it's more years ku democracy but still it's a referral to ama acts wabuma 1930 something 1977 for the past 20 years yini into lebe si change ukuthi izo benefit the majority so I'm not a politician, I'm a community activist ngine organization is clean ama streams voluntarily you see ama illegal dumping site so that ibe fair you see so bengicela ukuthi iprovince i-expropriate i-Kalspruit catchment for a better use in terms of environment. You see, so lezinto lezi thina sithi zama ukukhala ngazo at the local level. Sithola this thing ukuthi it's a brick wall. So maybe manje mangabuza ukuthi it's like i-province i-committee nigcine nini ukuzithembisa nizo-check ama-properties. I'll mention for a record sake. Makhulong Stadium, see underutilized, and the municipality is paying money to staff, but does generate any revenue. Ubani obhadalayo. Sinemidlaring Stadium, same applies. Ngikhula ngilong gijima lapha, still akabi nalama tracks. But abantwana bagijima on top of the ground. Under democracy, is this what we're intending to gain? Ni check ama hall, iRabasuthu as a community hall. Ayikho accessible blue sheet. Abantu namhlanje masuka kusasa offices. You see, bame ngaphandle bayobhalisa igrant enye building encane eGauteng for that matter, eSouth Africa for that matter, eAfrica for that matter, until when? You see, iCivic Center ishisiwe. Namanje akalungiswa, bengana insurance. So how far should we go in terms of trusting you as a public representatives way? To such an extent that man expropriate a particular land or a property for the use of a public, will that property be used for a public? Even though currently, siyahluleka uku-accessa ama-public facilities, bakutshela ngama-bookings, bakutshela nge-land, ukuthi it's like kumele ubhadale particular money. That is why abantu manje makunemisebenzi nama-barriers, bavala indlela. Currently, ethembisa kuna-access, abantu bavala indlela because abasana trust in terms of the system, the government. Baya barricade indlela. So umuntu we-ambulance uthini? So kumele abhayi zayele nale, ngapha umuntu uyalimala. Why kumele manje sibe yi-lawlessness country? Kanti what is democracy? Democracy is like a better life for all. But we're always fighting and it's a majority. Kuyosala bani kusasa? Kunama filling stations. Our agencies. You see, so considering the very same things. So that ukuthi kusasa mase sithi siya expropriate equivalent for a public use, even for a more public benefit. Lastly, if manje as a public citizen, as an interested person, ngifuna uku-expropriate iKalspruit from the government, will that be allowed? So if the government be allow ukuthi nge-expropriate land, but born as the government collectively, they want to expropriate land, are we equal? The last part of it, le yokugcina le. Ngiworried ngeweather. And it's organizelanga ama-heater, knowing very well ukuthi iGauteng yabantu, i-strength yabantu. You see? Siyagodola manje akuna ama-means wokuthi kube nama-heater, ukuthi sigodo, sifudumale singagodoli. Akubanga na that apology from you, Chairperson, to say ukuthi niya-apologize ukuthi maybe kube ilento, i-oversight. Ngiyabonga.
Sanbonani, ngibonge ngokuyitulo zenu lapho. Ngibonge nezivakashi zethu, isikhulu umama wethu uSpeaker ebela in absentia manje. Mina ngizogxila kakhulu ku expropriation without compensation. Ngithi phambili ngayo because amabhunu athatha umhlaba wethu. Ngenhlanhla mina I'm from one of the families abanencwadi eshoyo ukuthi uBackborder wathatha umhlaba wamaNdebele kumkhatshana inkosi eyayibusa ngaleso sikhathi. And fortunately sa apply in 2020 before ilokhunja iCovid umama wethu honorable uThoko Didiza ugama wami ngikhohle ukuzisho nguThoko ngwakaSikhosana ijali lakaThamani isichopho esibovu isithimbili abahala baqedwe uThoko Didiza wakhipha istatement esithi ama application ka 2014 to 2016 it was on the 26th of February leso statement nasiphuma kusowe 10 bathi mawamiswe kuqhubeka ngama application wange 31 December 1998 that is our application saya land claim ngalonyaka ngesikhathi seCovid sangena nzima vele mara basho bathi no kuqinisiwe after iCovid isibuye sabuyela nasibuyela bayasinceda but ayikakapheli application yethu 3 years later from 31 December 1998 lo application zikhulu zami ibhalwe ngomkhulu uLitho Mahlangu Kingdom sicela nilandelele umuntu obhizi ngayo le umlalo land claim nginzwile nanikhuluma ngerural development ama applications iland yethu it's from IR 317 to IR 399 from Val to Varampat ekuruleni yonke kahle kahle bahlali seniphendulekile ngoba umhlaba kusiwo amandebele kuphela umhlaba kuze nabantu from laba buya khona bazohlalisana nathi so akusese wakithi nizoza senigijima sesiphethe title deed ube so late so ba unumber last kanti ukhone ukuzwa wena namhlanje konje idata ingakhi yebo ke ngey15 wena ukhonile ukuzwa ukuthi iland yamandebele ayisahlala amandebele wodwa ihlala nami wena ngisho wena uzisho wena uthi ihlala nami so mangiwafuna amandebele ngiwathole ngikwazi ukuthi nami ngiyobenefit and then okwesibili kule land thina already sesine plan bahlali number 1 ukuthi igqwetha lethu liyazi nalo iplan yethu asiwaqosha amabhunu but sifuna ulwazi labo emakhampanini abantwana beni ngimzwile omunye athi umntwana wakhe use university nani lo mntwana ulwazi lwakhe ukuthi ayofunda further emabhunwini amabhunu siyowabhaya out sifaka abantwana bethu basebenzisane nabo each and every company ela siyofuna ipercentage yale company eyenzayo lo mali idistribute to wonke umhlali especially abantu esoqala ngabo abogogo ngoba sekufanele sidle le mali bathi basala abazukulu asiuthengisa umhlaba thina and ngeke size siuthengise ma comrade ukuthi ama comrade amaningi bayazi ukuthi vele ngiphethe lento iyaphila lento so kuya ngawe ukuthi nawe ufuna ukuba iphathi yayo na mina uchairperson norubani lokadala ukuthi ngiloku ngiyangena ngiyaphuma kahle kahle ngisebukhosini mara ingichayisile lento ngathi yazini njalo thina ngoba bazi ukuthi sinayo yonke into amaphepha ama application we are waiting for our recognition from the previous premier umama Maseko uyangazi umama uMihwe uye wayesimemezela ubukhosi bethu ngo2016 nge26 zaka November umama Mthoko ngizwe bathi nayo ikhona uyabaza ubukhosi baka Sikhosana unzunza amabhoko ekuruleni bahlali sifuneni sisafuneka njengo Jesu umhlaba so applyele ngithanda ukubonga so applyele siwaphetha amaphepha babhizi ngawo ungasali kuthi ngigide yazi ngiyajabula ukuza kwenu bengihlale ngizwa ku TV ngithi bayenza nini ipublic participation bazozwa ukuthi sina sithi vele my expropriate from emabhunwini but owethu lo mhlaba uzakithi siyabonga
Sanibonani mphakathi ninjani sanibonani izinkokheli zethu ninjani sijabulela ukuthi sibe nani namhlanje noma singaphelelanga nje iduduza inkulu kabi okusho khona ukuthi khona abangazange bawuthole umlayezo nami ngiyabonga nje ngibonga yena uprincess ukuthi angifonele manje bengisetsakane athi woza ngibuye etsakane ngigijima but ngokuhlala ngihlala la iduduza okay igama lami uNonhlanhla isibongo ngwakaNkambule ngihlala eWard 87 singaphansi kwekhansela ubonga Ndlophe mphakathi
mina nje into enza ukuthi ngigijime ngize la mabethi khona ivakashi zethu ezinkulu kangaka za ku province nami ngikhona nje kancane ku province kodwa ngokomnyanga ngisangoma ke mina ngikhona nje ku province but ngiyimember nami mara ngine ngobunyanga organization yezinyanga forum yasekuruleni into enza ukuthi ngigijime ngize ngifuna ukuphawula kakhulukazi ngesigebengu esesigcwele lapha eduduza abantu bayabulawa ngesimanga samahlathi agcwele indawo amahlathi ala eduduza maningaphuma nje nenzi research ngaphuma inyoka engaka ingene endlini ibulala abantwana kungcolile estratini enye into futhi engifuna ukuphawula ngayo ngifuna ukuphawula ngendaba yestrat S4 iward 87 mangabe ugibela imoto kwanimvula njoba ina kumele kuphuma abantu baphusha imoto ake kugule umuntu ke iambulance ayikhona ngisho ukungena ngesibanga sokuthi istrat izilimele ngiyacela izinkokheli zethu ke nithi nisilungisele lana esikhala khona awubuyeke umhlaba nami ngime la ngine organization yami yamatshitshi ithiwa ngale nkosazana namakhosazana ngiqoqa abantwana abazintandane ngiqoqa abantwana abahlukumezekile abahlukunyezwa abazali abanye abakhule kabuhlungu anginandawo yokuthi ngibaphethizise labantwana anginandawo so siyacela ukuthi abanakwe abantwana abanakwe abantu abahlanganisa abantwana nami ngicela ukuthi sinakwe sibanenga esizama ukuhlanganisa abantwana mawumele uphethizisa abantwana awazi ukuthi uzoyapi kumele ubaphethizise ejardini kodwa kuthiwa umhlaba ugcwele la amahlathi agcwele ngapha yini singavulelwa indawo la sofundiswa khona abantwana thiwa yanini lapha endaweni enje indawo yabantwana abafuna ukujiva abantwana abafuna ukuphethiza indaba elokhunjana amatshitshi yonke lento enjengalezo why singatholi umhlaba sihlanganisa abantwana bazokwazi ukuthi baqoqeke ngiyacela kakhulu izinkokheli zethu ngicela ukuthi niyenze iresearch ukuthi nibheke lapha enye into futhi yokugcina ke angifuni ukukhuluma kakhulu ngibambezela abanye abantu okugcina kunabantu ababhalisa izindlu namanje abanye abakhona bakangena ezindlini zabo umhlaba sobusa abantu bangaphandle bafika ngapha bangena ezindlini zabanye abantu ngiyayiva indaba inthini angisho ukuthi ngiyabazonda but abantu abanikezwe izindlu zabo nawe labangaphandle mabemele bathola izindlu abazithole bangathathi izindlu zabanye abantu bazenze kube yezabo ngiyabonga kakhulu
Greetings, Dumelang. Thank you so much, leadership, all community people. Naki ema so kalina kena karabo, wahamuko, ketwa Kempton Park, Konokem Park. The reason why there's quite a lot, 5 minutes, it's very little because there's so much happening in our actually nation, but we're gonna speak for Gauteng. I am a coach, I'm an artist, I'm quite a lot involved in communities, but I stay in Kempton Park. I grew up in Tembisa and Davidson. So quite a lot that is happening in this nation, and it looks like we have a leadership syndrome. So the reason why I'm standing up is because of, you find that there's a lot of people in communities, they want to do things, and they are very involved with activities and stuff. But now, we don't know whether things works with connections or things works somehow because of the decisions that we don't know. As you're gonna make decisions, as we heard the presentation and everything here, it's going to affect those same people because of they don't have the voice to speak. While you're gonna be sitting in the chambers there and deciding, while you don't check the people who are in the ground. Because of, why am I speaking like this? You find that yes, we respect that we have councillors, wards and stuff, but this system doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for this nation. It doesn't work for the little ones. You find that now even the little ones are the victims because the same infrastructure that you guys are saying.
Development. Ubutsotsi buningi kakhulu lapho. Ngikhuluma ngento engiyaziyo. Kunemihlaba ethengisiwe. Abokhefa sijawuke bakwazi lokho. Ngibafonele ngakhuluma nabo nalowo mlungu loyo ngaya kuye. bakhipha imali. Corruption iningi la kule nto le. Kufanele economic development. Kunabo baba abazalelwe kahle kahle umhlaba. Uma kukuthi nizalelwe lapho bathu baba la ngicela nikwazi lokho. Mawuzalelwe lapho kulelo plaza. Mawuzalelwe kulelo plaza amathuna obobaba nabomama alapho kulelo plaza. Yini ama beneficiaries walelo farm? Yini ama beneficiaries? Into enzakele abochawuke bathumele abantu base Giyani kuphi bayeza bazo own ama farms ngapha. Baqoshwa yimi. Baqoshwa yimi ngathi uzolu owner ifarm kaChauke not here. Siyezwana ngisho kaChauke. Leyo nto ngicela ukuthi siyibhekeni izinkokheli zethu. Ngicela siyibhekeni abantu bayasafara, abantu basebenzisa ipower yabo ukwenza imali. Basebenzisa ipower yabo ukwenza imali. Iningi imali ekhishiwe ngani. Kune feme yakhiwa lapha next to Gibela. Leyo farm leyo. Bokutshala uDilang lapho. Kunabo babamahlangu dala basebenzele uDilang manje lelo farm litshalwa umntwana kaDilang. Abochawuke bafikile bafaka ama-China basika ama hectares, basikela ama-China ama hectares bathatha imali. Ngiyakwazi lokho angikhulumi ngento ukuthi mhlambe ngizwe ngabethi. Ngiyayazi leyo nto leyo. I-brick and clay, ibrico kukhona labo kufanele imayine khona lapha emasimini yakhipha imali. Ithe mangilwa ngithi manje ngizoba expose labo bantu. Into enzakele uDH divisional head umaluleka wa resigna because lo mlungu ukhuluma straight uthi nginikeze imali engaka. Niyayibona le nto le. Nginayo lo information yonke. Makube abantu fanele baboshwe bazawuboshwa manje. Nginayo that information. Bethi mangiyithatha ngiyithumela kubomzwandile ngiyithumela kubobani bani bathatha ama-email wami bawubuyisele back kulabo bantu bathi hey nangu umuntu oso uthi nenza 1 2 3 nokuthi ba discipline lowo muntu bamela lowo muntu. Niyayibona le nto le. That is why ngithi manje ngina that trust yokuthi njengoba kune leadership yethu ye-EFF izinto zizawushintsha. Niyayibona angeke upimpe umntwana kubabakhe. Mawupimpa umntwana kubaba kuyomtshela ukuthi hey uTebugo uthi 1 2 3 mara manje sompimpa komunye umuntu ongeralithani naye abahlobani labo bantu. EFF ANC akusihlobo leso. Manje into ezoyenzakala ukuthi into nento sicela ukuthi bayithathe serious la. Into nento esireportayo reportane uma kuthi nithola ukuthi kwenzakala into ezibhedayo mina ngina information ngikhipha yonke ngibeka la. Niyabona le nto le. Bengikhipha information ekugcineni ngihlaselwe kwami. Ebusuku ngihlaselwe ebusuku ngiphulelwe izindlu ngiphulelwe imoto ebusuku ngilele. Yini ukureporta ebantwini abarong. Niyabona le nto le. So saba nokureport mara mina nguTebugo ngithi ngisalwa namhlanje. Ngilewela namafamu iland reform beyikhona last week. Abantu ngibayenzela ama claim. Laba abazalelwe emafamu kune lento le Sparvater farm ngapha ngase Damini. Abantu bakhona ngibalandile bazile kimi ngabanceda iland reform beyikhona babhizi ama acknowledgement letter bawatholile yonke into iku process manje. Nase 8 cake ngicela abantu abaziyo ukuthi bazalelwe kulelo farm lelo. Abazali babo bashonele lapho velani siclaim ama land. Umhlaba wenu loyo. Yilento bengifuna ukuyindlulisa leyo nkokheli. Ngicela ukuthi wonke umuntu owaziyo ukuthi ngizalelwe kaBhula ngizalelwe kuphi amathuna kababa alapho nomama ulapho because into eyenzakalayo labantu bangaphandle mabafika lapho wena mawuthi uyeza uzoklina amathuna kababa bakutshela ukuthi awunamvumo yokungena lapho ubani yena. Niyayibona le nto le. Awusana mvumo yokungena ukuyoklina amathuna wabazali benu. Mangicela ukuthi inkokheli zethu zisukumele le nto leyo bake bavakashele lamafamu ala around Far East. Yiningi corruption enzakele lapho. Uma kukuthi bafuna information ngale nto le ngikhuluma ngayo ngikhona ngizoyikhipha ngiyibeke etafuleni. Ngiyabonga izinkokheli.
Siyabonga kakhulu umphakathi wakithi. Sibonge kakhulu ngizothanda ukuyithatha ngibuyisele ku chairperson. Siyabonga.
Thank you so much, Member Njokwe, for the work that you have done, and thank you to everyone who has made their input. There's a gentleman who spoke here and said we could not even apologize for not having organized Amahitala and in Kotolile. Yes, indeed, it was an oversight on our part. I hope sibe nesikhathi ukuthi singabuza izangoma zezulu ukuthi iweather yanamhlanje izobe injani so that we make provision for Amahita. I'm only comforted with the fact that nathi sihleli la sigodolile njengani. I can only imagine if bekunamahita ahleli la thina sifudumele nina nigodolo ukuthi bekuzoba njani kule hall. Mhlambe ngeke siphume nokuphuma eminyango. So sonke sigodolile, and that is why nasekuseni ngesikhathi kudliwa ibreakfast kunabantu abafikile bangena kwinye room la bekuhleli khona ama members bazophuza itiye babe bathi babaxosha ngathi hayi bayekeni abantu bagodolile. Most of you benidla ibreakfast ngamajuice because mabe siplana bekusashisa. The first meeting at Johannesburg iweather bengekho so bekushisa. Last week evali iweather khona beyishisa. So today nathi sicabanga ukuthi hayi yonke into iso, but because we learned through our mistakes, we have learned our mistake. What we are going to do moving forward is to check ukuthi when we move to the next area izobe njani weather on that day, so that we don't do what we have done to the people of Eguruleni. And we want to apologize wholeheartedly. It's not on purpose. Bega ma officials we government bo bahleli lapha bona bawethu because abakhulumi nokukhuluma bahleli bagodole since bafika la sonke sigodolile bona uMamthoko makagula na uceda ukufika bekagula for the past 2 weeks ugodolile, and we apologize. We understand ukuthi some of you it's an inconvenience because siyagula and we've got different sicknesses. Omunye kusasa kuzoba nzima ukuthi avuke because ugodolile la namhlanje izomafecta kusasa emaffecte nini. And ngebhadi or ngesho ukuthi ukuthi akana na medical aid akunalanga yakhona akekho umuntu angamfonela ukuthi hey ngiletheli for flu lapho ngiyagodola or sengiyagula ngalokho. That's the only thing I want to speak to. Siyaxolisa kakhulu, it was never on purpose. It can never be on purpose ukuthi sinbize la nizogodola sinbizele la ukuthi nihambe la senigula. It was never our intention. We did not mean it. Anything else that has been said here, ngicela wazi mawuhamba la ukuthi akekho umuntu right, akekho umuntu wrong. Whatever you said here, it's how you feel, it's how you see things, and you are saying to us as a word of advice, consider the following, and that's why we are here, so that you can teach us better. Because mahlele ma boardroom, it's easy for us to take decisions, but does this decision benefit you as a member of community? And that's why we said, let's go to you so that you tell us. Now we know that we must think of systems that work, because the current system don't work. What could be the systems that work? It means we must come back and say, we are proposing the following. What do you think? Second to that is how we organize members. There are some of you who said they only received the invite izolo, abanye they only got to know about this thing today and so on. It therefore means there's much work that we need to do in order to ensure that the community knows when the legislature is coming. Because for me, this was supposed to have been packed to a point that if needs be, because expropriation of land, I normally say to people, land is dignity. That's how I explain this thing. Land is dignity. You have a piece of land, you have got dignity. Anything else is secondary, because you can eat from the land. You can plow, you can have mkukunyana wako, you can have anything that you want. La uzokhona ukhomba ngomuntu ukuthi la ngokwami la. It doesn't matter how people feel. It doesn't matter who says what. But because for you is the most important piece that you own, it means a lot. And of course, sonke sawufuna umhlaba. Vele struggle was about land. We cannot struggle for anything else except for land. Land is extremely important to all of us. And that is why we are coming to you and say to you, there's a view of expropriating land. There's a view of expropriating land for the benefit of the community. What do you think? How should we go about expropriating this land? Because nani niyazi nihlala la iDuduza, Tsakani, kunjani amakasi wasekuruleni, kwaThema, Springs, Thokoza, Davidton, eThwathwa, Tembisa, Vosloorus. Yini nihlala la? There are areas where you stay, where there has been a piece of land for the past 20 years. It's not developed, nothing happens there. And you always wonder, what is happening here? Why can't they do this here? Why can't they do that here? Only to find out it is owned by Van der Merwe. Van der Merwe left South Africa in 1993, just before the elections. We have got no way of accessing him, and people need land. How do we expropriate that land? There are communities that are, the areas that we grow up in are growing every day. Say Tsakani, I think there's extension Banbani today in Tsakani. Aksase le Tsakani lewe yaziyo, aksase Tutuza lewe yaziyo from back then. There are other developments that have taken place. They need schools, they need clinics, they need police stations, they need community halls, they need churches. But there's a land and we are not able to use it because it does not belong to government. We are coming to you and we are asking you, please help us in formulating a way of expropriating this portion of land so that we can use it for the beneficiation of the community. It cannot be correct that you stay in Tutus, but you can only access clinic at Tsakani. It cannot be correct that you stay in Tutus, but you can only be held by a police station or police coming from Heidelberg. Well, there's a portion of land that could be expropriated and we can build a police station in that portion of land. Or we can build a community hall or early childhood development center. And that is why, we came here so that we can hear you in terms of advising us. So that when we finish, because the last engagement is going to be Namakos. When we are done Namakos, we are going to meet as a committee and then clean up all the things that we have said from Johannesburg to the very same meeting Namakos, and make our submission as a province of Gauteng to the national government in the parliament to say, when you go there and vote on behalf of Gauteng, you must vote. Before she went anywhere, I think, before she went anywhere, she said, Mena, I am for the expropriation of land without compensation. At the end of the day, when Gauteng finally make its own submission, what will be the final submission? What are the people of Gauteng saying? We are not saying anything else that you are saying is not important. There are some of the things, and Member Mkhitu was reminding me, that we need to come back, and coming back, we must bring the Department of Land Claims, because there's a very thin line between expropriation and land claims. There are those who are saying when you speak, majority of the issues that you are raising has to do more with the land claims than they have to do with us. But it's not our role to say, oh, stop. What you are saying has nothing to do with us here. Ours is to hear, so that when we meet, we are able to advise, hey, Mamelani, in Neguruleni, there's a need for us to have this meeting because these are the issues that people of Eguruleni are raising. Some of you are raising issues out of frustration because you don't have this platform. So we can't stop you saying, no, but the things that you are raising have got nothing to do with us. It is our responsibility to listen to you so that we are able to take your issues to the relevant offices. But what we have learned, when we submit them and we leave it that, it's exactly that. So we want to invite them. It must be us who invites them to say, Asiye Neguruleni, people of Eguruleni wants to talk to you. So they sit here and they listen to you so that you are able to speak to the relevant people through us. Because if we don't help you, if we don't fight for you, why are we here? We are here so that we are able to be your mouthpiece. We are here so that we are able to be your eyes and ears. We are here so that you are able to be heard in the province. Some of us here, you will hear in the next house sittings as we meet. Some of us here will stand up in the house and say, we Neguruleni. Ntate so and so from Tembisa stood up and raised the following. How far are you as a department on the issues that were raised to us when we were in Eguruleni? So you might take it for granted. I can assure you that's not the case. And with this committee here, you've got one committee that I know for a fact, not because I'm a member of the committee, but I know this is one of the committees that I know that we work and we say what we do, and we do what we say. So we are going to come back. We are going to come back. We'll bring all the people that we have spoken to that are not here, so that at the end of the day, there's a sense of appreciation between the community and what government seeks to do for you as a community member. So that we want to do away with this thing that you wake up in the morning, you see something is happening, you don't even know what is happening, but you stay there. Next time when we come, we'll ensure that the ward councillor is also sitting here. So that when you complain that the councillor lethu alezenzeli next, simkhombe sithi hayi nangu councillor wethu, khuluma nangu. Because some of you don't even know them. The last time you saw them were in the poster, Mabsio voter. Since then, they have not even called a single public meeting. We will call them so that we can question them. We will also take it further and invite the municipality, the relevant departments within the municipality, because you can't come here and say, Mecharen Stadium is there, you are not able to access it, and the municipality doesn't respond. What then what? You are going to live here and still be angry that you can't access multi-purpose center. We must bring municipality here. So when you raise these things, municipality must be able to respond, to say, no, the reason you can't access Tsakani Stadium or Tsakani swimming pool is because of the following reason. Because if you come and you raise these things, it means you don't know why you can't access it. It means municipality is not talking to you as the member of the community to say the following on these days are not accessible, don't even bother. But if they come here and you speak, we'll ask them to respond to your issues. Because I think that is the only way to resolve some of these things and deal with misconception and misunderstanding that might be here or there. Because the most important thing is that you, the community, must be put first. Once you make it, it's all about you. And that's it. You forget where we come from. Let's not do that. Let's be the agents of change around that thing. That wherever you are seated, let it be that even if you want the health portfolio committee or you want to speak to the MEC responsible for health, just so you know, as in manga kulma say infrastructure, I know what MEC where health will come to our meeting. Here they are. Call any of us and talk to us. Some of you who still want to make submissions because ngiyazi as fun, uhleli lapho ubufuna ukukhuluma ithi mawubheka abantu abangabathi yo what if lento ngizoyisho la no ngiyasaba, it's okay. Kune email address ngicela nibe Thebe email address na isescreenini nangu umnikazi emva kwami uMorini email address yakhe nayi lapho ngicela uyithathe le email address mawufika endlini mawuso relaxed bese uyenza ke wenza kanjalo send the email ukuthi Maureen, please tell the committee these are my views on the expropriation of land, whether with or without compensation. So umamthogo uzosivalela meeting, and then masesiqedile before avala Maureen was before mamthogo avala meeting, did you prepare ukudla at least for our stakeholders? The least you can do is to give them something to eat. Bukhona? Okay. So umamthogo uzosivalela meeting makaceda nizoya ngali le emuva neMorini. All right. Nizothola at least lunch nyana. In the meantime ke lama peace lawa angithi Christmas present. Ayakabi Christmas manje. Ngicela siwabuyise so that kusasa masiya somewhere nabo babe ne-access ukuthi bakhona ukusizwa masikhuluma. So please ungahambi ngayo ngeke isebenze mawufika endlini. And into ebuhlungu ine-tracking device. Cabanga sebafika endlini bazolanda lento. But imagine lento le 25 rand sebazokulanda baspend ipetrol 300 ukuzolanda 25 rand. Siyanicela abantu abadala mamthogo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Okay, asikavali umhlangano. Masi hand over ngokuthula. Thank you, Chairperson, for affording me this opportunity. Yokuthi ivalo umhlangano. Ngizothanda ukubonga ama participants bekade khona la kulokubanda. Ngibonge the Department National Public Works, ngibonge GPL Legal Department, ngibonge ama members we committee le infrastructure leyo i-DIT ngiyanibonga ngibonge onke i-support staff ekhona la ngibonge abekade basitolikela uma kukhulunywa nabo bonke abanye abakhona bonge amakhosi akhona neindlovukazi ezikhona uMamzwane siyabonga and others mangabe bakhona abanye ngokulandelana kanjalo kweprotocol yenu siyabonga sethemba ukuthi sizwile and sisazoqedelela nakwamanye ama-region. I think you are left with 2 regions now ukuze sizokwazi ukuthi siqede bese siyasubmita eGauteng. So ngicela ukuthi masiphuma la sihambe kahle sibuyele kahle sifike siphephile emakhaya uNkulunkulu ayiphephise impilo zethu and nokuthi nathi asenze sivule izindlebe silalele senze okushiwo umphakathi siyabonga nihambeni kahle. Thanks.
Thank you, Mam Togo. You may proceed to have lunch. Department officials from the Department of Infrastructure. You know we're supposed to have our committee meeting, angit? Agabanda maga. No gabanda. No. Sizoyenza kusasa online. Anohamba dasi hayi. Amatolo Mam Togo asu hayi no. Kusasa bafethu. Ayaskisi man. Hayi kusasa bafethu. Ne? Kusasa ne online ngo 10 ekseni. Sharp. Hayi kuyabanda.